We have finally reached June. I say finally as if we've been waiting on it for years, but we're here. And if you're a Canadian soccer fan, there's lots to talk about, especially on the men's side. No, the women are doing their thing, picking up trophies everywhere. The men got a trophy we created for ourselves, but we won one, and that's a thing. But we're going to talk about a lot of these things here. We have Lane from On the Rise. We're going to talk about recapping the Canadian Shield, talking about what our now expectations are for the Gold Cup, and maybe have a little bit of a CONCACAF World Cup qualifying talk at the end. But we'll see. Guys, if you're new to the channel, we do primarily Canadian African football, so make sure you leave a like, comment if you're watching this live, come back later and see what your thoughts are on all our topics. And as always, if you haven't, get this man to 1,000. Please get this man to 1,000 subscriptions if you're looking for more Canadian football content, Canadian soccer content. Follow him. But Lane, how are you doing this evening?
It's going great. So much stuff going on with the Canadian soccer. And like you said, June, it's a busy month for Canada soccer, men's, women, and absolutely love what's going on. So, how about yourself?
It's honestly, it's been great. Emotionally, we had the women's the under 20s who won the championship at CONCACAF on Saturday, which wasn't an emotional roller coaster whatsoever. I just sat there, I was just like, I need this, please. And it was great. I got a short on that coming up at some point in the next 48 hours. So be sure to do that with AC from W Soccer. So make sure you guys keep your eyes peeled for that. But we're here to talk about the men because the men are entering a very interesting next little bit for them. They have not only the Gold Cup coming, but they're coming off the Canadian Shield, which opened our eyes to some topics as well as expose us to some players, which will be very interesting, but also expose us to some potential issues with pricing and attraction and selling out games. And yes, at some point, someone on the East Coast is going to yell at someone from the West Coast saying, "You should have put the game insert location. We would have sold out at insert location." Look, it's ugh. But all that yelling aside, Lane, the Canadian Shield, Canada wins it because we won a game by 2 goals and lost in penalties by one. So yes, rig the system. But if you look at it overall, before we go into players in depth, break it down, what are your thoughts on the Canadian Shield as a whole? Did it meet your expectations? Or did you just overall, what were your feelings on the Canadian Shield as a whole?
As a whole, I'm very happy and pleased with how it went. The turnout, of course, was the big damper on what was overall a very good tournament. Unfortunately, there weren't any major goals or anything like that, but it was still a very fun tournament. There was four very good nations. New Zealand pulled up a surprise over Cote d'Ivoire, and Canada showed us so many lessons, so many position battles, and Jesse Morris would have been able to learn so much from both those games. But in general, from the tournament, it was fun to watch. It was something new, something fresh, a different setup that we got to see. Yes, we got to make a trophy for ourselves to win, but we had to go win it, right? Like we beat a
Mhm.
good side in Ukraine. We managed to draw the best team that from Africa right now, the reigning AFCON champions. And it was a good tournament overall from Canada, albeit didn't end on the most exciting of ways, losing in a penalty shootout after a draw, which unfortunately on TSN for some Canadian casuals is a bit confusing that we go out and lift a trophy after quote unquote losing a game in a penalty shootout. And
No.
I can
Mhm.
understand why that's confusing, right, to a casual, but we had to do it. We had to have the penalty shootout. Those were the rules set from the start of the tournament.
Mhm.
And you just got to stay to the status quo. So that's the only really confusing part about the tournament and something maybe that should be tweaked, should be changed. Because if you're a casual just popping on TSN to watch Canada against Cote d'Ivoire and you see us draw and go into a shootout but lift the trophy, it's a bit unusual and I can understand that.
Mhm.
But overall, I think it was a success. And the biggest downfall, the biggest negative had to be the turnout, had to be the fans that showed up because
Mhm.
the price was just a bit wild for two games, especially for such a late time on the East Coast. For you guys out there watching on the East Coast going to the game, that's a crazy night, right? You go watch the New Zealand game, then you go watch the Canada game. You're not getting home till I don't know what time you guys would have been home at, But
Mhm.
it was late even here in central Canada watching the game, and then when you realize how late it would have been for you guys, I think that's the only thing that has to be tinkered is the price, the time scheduling, and what to do next for that tournament and the scheduling really.
No, really, I think one of the things, like, if we're gonna talk on that, I think one of the things I think they missed out on, I understand the logic of it, and I tweeted it. Like, I understand the logic of the 2 build ticket, right? You get
Yeah.
both games coming in, but I think they really missed the ball on separating it. I think I understand the logic in it. You're guaranteeing both prices. You have to pay for 3 teams to come in, basically, and so you need to secure as much funds as you can for ticket sales that way. I still do think based off the teams that they had, they could have sold the games individually. I really do. I think
Yeah.
you could have got a good turnout from with the Cote
Cote
d'Ivoire
d'Ivoire.
fans
Yeah.
coming out.
100%.
Canadian fans would have shown up, and maybe that would have been perfect, because you would have got Canadian fans who show up for the game. Maybe it's still you still see the exit, but it's not as pronounced as it was before, because it felt very much like as fair or unfair. And I don't think it was as pronounced as that, but it felt like Nations League, right? Where the US played Panama to what felt like 17 people and your cousin. And then once the Mexico Canada game, it was just like everyone but your 17 friends and your cousins were there, right? And so it kind of created that dynamic. It was like that. And I remember, like, because for me, but going behind the curtain, like I got called to say, like, hey, are you going to this game? We can get you into this game. And my thought was just, look, it's a Tuesday. I got work tomorrow. It went to penalties. So at that point, I would have reached home at like 1, and then I had to go into the office next day. So it was just a tough call to make. But those logistics outside, I think it did show there is that diaspora. And it was interesting on the backs of that, because that came after the women hosted Haiti and Montreal. And I mean,
And Winnipeg.
yes, the Winnipeg part was important.
Don't
Winnipeg
forget
was important.
Central Canada here.
Listen, listen, Central Canada, we love you out there. But I think the story when they got to Montreal, it was basically a Haiti home match, which to me, I don't mind if you know what's going on in Haiti or what's been going on in Haiti. That's the closest thing those girls have had to a home game in 10 years. I'm pretty sure Canada is the last team to have played in Haiti when you think about it, because they played during COVID for World Cup qualifiers. And then after that, all their home games have been everywhere but there. So it's it's fascinating to just think all the connections there. But then you see such a crowd, then we had conversations about, oh, is, why can't our national teams get support? Like they do. It just you happen to pick a location where the draw was always going to be more than the national team, and that's okay. But yeah, it was interesting seeing that on the backs of that, and people being that, and then people were like, okay, well, will Ukraine have more fans in there because what their situation is? I'm like, they'll have a good showing,
Yep.
yes, but that'll probably be a good environment overall. But yeah, overall, I think that's the one thing they dropped the ball on, just trying to do the double bill. But I think overall, again, the football was great. I just rewatched the New Zealand Ukraine game, and I was just like, what? Oh, yeah, great game
It was a great
overall.
game.
Just
Yeah.
and like they picked the right teams. Like, and I think that was a fun thing with it. They got the right teams that offered something different in every matchup, right? And I had this conversation with on another channel with here actually, and we were
Yeah.
talking about like the Unity Cup where you had Ghana versus Nigeria, then Trinidad versus Jamaica. Like, well, who would you do if France did their version of that? Would they call Morocco? Would they call Haiti? Would like who would they do? And so, like, before we go into the player breakdowns, like next year for Canadian Shield, or the next time you try to do Canadian Shield, who would you love to see in it? Like, what teams would you say, hey, let's get these guys in, both from a draw or just from what their teams could be on the pitch?
I think that's a really good. I think you almost have to bring someone from South America this time. You have to bring someone from a different region, a different confederation, and get someone new in there to keep the tournament a bit fresh, right? Because I also think a South American crowd, you're going to get a lot of supporters coming out to that game. And if you get a nation such as Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, you're going to get a really good turnout from those supporters, and they're going to bring a great vibe. It's going to be a very exciting opposition for Canada and a different look to break down. Even though we just faced a Copa America opponent, it'd be interesting to see how we could do a year or two on from that.
Mhm.
and maybe an Asian nation as well. Get a Japan involved, get a South Korea involved, and see how that goes as well. Because those are great teams, fun to play. And we also remember Canada played Japan 2, 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly when that friendly was.
That was right
It's
before the World Cup in 22. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it seems like
And
another
then
life.
the one before, and then they played them 2 years ago before the Nations League,
Yeah,
versus Jamaica. So, yeah,
yeah, it feels like another lifetime ago almost. But like,
that's
it's a
true.
it's a new Japan side, a new Canadian side. Let's see how they play against each other, right? Get
Yes.
Japan, get Uruguay or Chile, and then throw a European nation in. Maybe call France back, call Netherlands back, and see if they want to come down
Mm.
and do something like that. Get three really big nations, get Canada involved, and maybe this time I'd like to see them do. You play every single nation at this, which I know logistically is probably very difficult because these players have vacations to go to, they have club World Cups, whatever's going on. But if you play all three nations, they all get more time, and it makes it more worth their while to travel all the way to Canada
Mhm.
because then you get to see the environment, see how you play against each other and against different federations. So I think it'd be very exciting to see if they could do all three games.
No, agreed. I think what could be fun if they do it next year, for example. I mean, it'd be the perfect send off tournaments to do it there. At that case, then you're looking at who's at the World Cup, who could you get, and at that point, I'm like, oh, if because we know the send off game is in Montreal, we know that right now, and so if you're gonna do that, like, could you get a Brazil in Montreal, the good Brazilian population in Quebec?
Yeah.
Could you get a any French nation, North, any of the North African nations? Right now, Morocco looks good. Could you get Morocco versus Canada as like a nice going back to that? That could be fun as well. Any nation from the from French colonies, put them in Quebec. You got options. So I think they can definitely do it. If I had to go a 14 thing, I would probably say Norway,
Yes, please.
Morocco, and Australia. Keep the Commonwealth vibes going, but then there's something different from all the teams where you can be like, okay, cool. Norway, you have some names there.
I'll bring on my half
Australia,
and half kit.
exactly. And so I think that could be a very interesting, a fascinating set. But that would be who I would pick overall. But let's get into the games, right? We had on the 7th, which was Saturday, 4-2 win versus Ukraine. And then we had 0-0, then penalties versus Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire a few days later. You look at those two games, question that's on the screen right now is who stood out for you on those two matchups? Who were your standouts for the tournament for you for Canada?
That's a very tough question. There's multiple players who really stood out to me,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, it's hard to pick exactly one because most players didn't play a major part in both games.
Fair.
But if I was going with someone who really made a statement, really left something on me, would be Nathan Saliba.
Hmm.
Nathan Saliba for me was absolutely incredible because we need a 10. We need someone who can control the midfield. We need someone who plays the ball forward.
Mhm.
But he also played a role which was very demanding, where he had to work both forwards and backwards, covering for Tajon Buchanan, who was bombing up the pitch constantly, covering for Nico Sigor at times. And he did a very good job, especially sitting in front of a 19-year-old Luke de Fougerolles, who got a start, played incredibly well himself, who could have been my player of the tournament as well.
Mhm.
And Nathan Saliba just absolutely worked relentlessly. Like, he was a true dog in his midfield, and he could possibly, for me, be set to work his way into the starting lineup for 2026 of how well he played, and if he could get a transfer to Europe, because it was very surprising. And I mean, Tajon could have been your player of the tournament. It could have been Luke de Fougerolles, and even an outside one for me. I was extremely impressed with Zorhan Basong. I know that's very rogue. He's not my player of the tournament, but
Mhm.
he definitely deserves a shout out with how well he played, because most people would have, or even myself, written him off, didn't think he was going to be good enough. I was disappointed to see him in the starting lineup, and he came out and absolutely blew me away. But I'd have to say it was Nathan Saliba and Luke de Fougerolles would by far be my two player of the tournament, especially with how well Luke de Fougerolles came on against Cote d'Ivoire in a physical game and did not look scared to get on the ball or be a bit physical against
Mhm.
Francaise and Singo.
No, I think when you look at Luke de Fujihara, he was definitely a player who understood what the temperament of each game was and adjusted his style accordingly. And I think that was important, especially in the Cote d'Ivoire game. That we'll get to that game because it again for me, it's like it was both vindication and concern. All at the same time, I was just like, we're not winning this game 3-0, but that's a whole conversation for later. Like, I think when you look at the Ukraine game, like I was one of my friends, he called me, he was just like, I'm surprised you haven't like blown up my phone saying, "Did you see Canada versus Ukraine? We're gonna do something." Like, yeah, because it's the first game, right? The one fun thing about this is I treated this like this was a tournament. So I'm like, okay, we got the 3 points off the bat. Do we just get the draw the next game, or do we go for the win and try to put the group away? Technically, we got the draw. And so we would have been all right, but we needed to go through. And I think those are good ways for them to learn how to really manage the group, right? When they're in tournament settings. That's something we've seen them be successful with, managing the group, gaining results accordingly. But when you look at a player like, I mean, Tajon just felt like Jay-Z in the song, "Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Tay." Like, we haven't seen that Tajon in years. And yes, the injury affects that. Yes, going the moves. When you look at that game, if someone could frame it and be like, when Inter bought him, that's what they were expecting, right? And so it was so good to see that player. Jonathan David, what else can you say about that player, right? He was the best player on the pitch. His movement in the first half was chef's kiss. We loved it, and that's what we love to see. Nathan Saliba, honestly, started up a little bit shaky, but I think ultimately settled into the game and was solid throughout. So yeah, I didn't have much complaint. Everything you said about Luke de Fujigala was good. Though I will say one thing as an overall note, when you don't have a player like Moise Bombito or Alfonso Davies, you realize that their speed covers up a lot, right? Because when Zinchenko gets that, he uses his run and gets in basically 1v1 versus Crepo and he tries to chip in and go that. In a normal game, Bombito is running that down. Davies is going to get close and run that down. In this game, you don't have that option. And you really appreciate Moyes and Fonzie in that because you see them as players who are like, okay, cool. They do cover up a bit. Not to say that we're not solid, but that was a concern for me looking at. So I loved how they played. It was good to see Maxime Crepeau have a solid game. I know the 2 goals at the end. What can you do about that? Save them, save a penalty. That is easier said than done. But I like what you said about Zoran. I had forgotten about him, and he represented us. I feel safer and more confident now in their fullbacks because I've seen him at least have a solid game, and especially the style that Marsh wants to play. You see that, and I don't feel as concerned. There is concern now with the injury to Sam Adekubi, but at least you've seen it. You've seen him on the pitch, so it's no longer the crack case in case of emergency. We've seen him play, so it's not an emergency anymore. So you're kind of good with that. I will say, as an overall in this game, I liked how they attacked it. They were very direct and very, very lethal on the counter, and that's a team that they want to be, right? They want to be a pressing team. They want to be a team that is great in transition. They want to directly get into attacking phases quickly, and they have a team that's built for that, right? And you saw that, especially once they started to go to their bench in the second half. A player like Jaden Nelson back in the national team, and you saw how direct and how he's thinking fast, but he's also reacting fast, right? At the last Gold Cup, you saw him, he was playing fast, but maybe not necessarily thinking fast. Here, you saw the combination in terms of, okay, press, go in, get through. And you really appreciate it. I think I've mentioned everyone but Promise David, but hey, Promise David gets his first goal for Canada by pressing, turning over, and putting the ball away. We're getting the cousins. We're getting the cousins, and I have nothing you get ashamed about for that. But that first game, like, there's a few things that went wrong in it. Just the way that they were playing. There was a few things that really went wrong with it. And I liked it overall. So like that first game, few players played bad, even Jebison in this cameo in the first game, it was just okay. What him as a pressing forward is like, okay, let me see more. We got to the second game, and then we saw we had the entire Jebison experience, which is it's tough. Like, I mean, we can get let's get to it. Like, I know it's divisive, and you know what? I'm gonna use my platform to say this. Can we just like appreciate that we can have these conversations? Can we? Can we? Do you remember the era we were in before when we were just like, hey, it's it's Kyle Aaron.
It's
What
Tesho
we
Akindele at the Gold Cup.
Tesho put in the good he
I
put in
love
the
him,
good
but like,
shift.
can we just appreciate what we got now?
Yes, we're having a conversation. Yeah, we're arguing about uh, a Premier League striker who is on the bench for his side, but he's playing for us. And yes, he's raw. And yes, this is his first starting action in a while. That means it's gonna be ups and downs. And yes, you put him out there against the most physical side you can play. So what did you expect? I expected chaos. And we got it. It was good, but we get to have this. I'm like, let's appreciate this. Yes, I know the World Cup is in a year, and you want to be mindful of that. And nothing is safe. I agree, but let's just appreciate that we have this. But what's your thoughts on the nine position? 'Cause I guess we can lump them all in together here. David, I think was Jonathan David was great, but when you go after him, you look at Promise, you look at Jebison, you look at Kyle Laren. Do we still have the same questions, or are we still a little bit more curious within that position group, or will the Gold Cup kind of show a little bit more in terms of how we feel about that depth?
I think I'm a little bit more certain that Promise David's going to work his way into the starting lineup and be a lock sooner than we expect.
Hmm.
The- I mean, it's obvious that whoever plays alongside Jonathan David is going to look better, is going to look stronger, going to have more chemistry, and is going to
Mhm.
look better on the pitch. You saw the link between Laren and Jebison; it wasn't there, and that didn't surprise me. But Promise David was pressing relentlessly throughout this game. He's a six
Mhm.
foot five, absolute tall unit. And the fact he is able to run so quickly, press from the front foot so well, and be able to adapt into Jesse Marsh's setup throughout 45 minutes, I thought was very impressive. I thought it would have taken him a lot longer to be on the front foot so well. Because yes, sometimes his touch wasn't there, and other times it was other times he was very inconsistent with his runs. And that's gonna happen in a new formation, playing with a new striker and everything of a sort in a new system. But when he is showing clear indication that he gets the system, he gets to set up what Jesse Marsh wants, by that being vindicated by immediately robbing the ball off one of Ukraine's center backs, being right on the ball and having a very good finish as well. Yes, he was
Mhm.
1v1, but you still got to be composed, right? And I think Promise David throughout the Gold Cup, if he starts next to Jonathan David, I think he's going to lock down that other nine spot that's in question next to Jonathan. But
Mhm.
that third one, I think, is the big question now that we have to look into. Is it going to be Laren? Is it going to be Jebison, Tawny? I don't think we can rule out Tawny Oluwase yet because he's really the archetype perfect nine for Jesse's system. The way he
Mhm.
presses, how fast he is. I know people aren't impressed with his record for Canada, but he got that monkey off his back in already against USA. So
Yeah.
I think he's got a legitimate chance to work his way into the third role, but it's going to be very interesting what happens between Laren and Jebison heading into a Gold Cup or even post Gold Cup. So I'd personally rank it right now: Promise, Tawny, Kyle, Jebison.
See, I think the most interesting thing to me about that position group is that the who's the training player that they brought in, the Man U Academy kid?
Bianchetti.
Yankeri. Okay, so he Marsh described him as Jonathan David like in terms
Yeah,
of that
yeah.
profile. And that to me is an important thing because I do think that Laren, Promise, Jebison are all kind of this. Even you throw in Theo Bear into that conversation, and to an extent, Tanny are all the same type of player in terms of they're the 9, right? They would be in the 4-4-2, like they're the primary 9, or in that 4-2-3-1, they're the tip of the spear.
Yep.
Jonathan David is more of that 10 role, right? And I think that's where Kyle Larin, I think, struggles. And I think we saw Jefferson trying to play off of him as everything was off there. There are 2 9s that are used to being the tip of the spear. And so I don't know if the conversation is primarily with like those 3, because I do think you can probably bring 5 strikers if you need. But I think the more interesting is who's the best player if you don't have Joe David? Who is the best player to take up that position, right? And we were texting it, or it wasn't you. I'm in too many group chats during games, so just like you. But I was like, I'd rather. I know Kone started that game, but if you want someone in that space, I'd rather you just put Kone there, right? Put Kone in that spot, and then Kyle Larin or Jebison. Let Larin or Jebison be the tip of the spear. Let them press up forward and go from there. Because I think from a creating standpoint, you're better off putting someone who can create there versus because Larin is more of a holdup. Jebison is more of a holdup as well. I mean, that's what he profiles as, right? I haven't given up on him, okay, but it was just it's
potential. He's raw.
Yeah, and that's the reality of it. So I think based off of their strengths, they're better off just attack, turnover, and just fill the channels and runs. So I think the second 9 is the more fascinating conversation in terms of who takes Joe David off the pitch if you need to freshen up that space, right? Is it another 9? And that's where I think like a Jason Russell Rowe, to me, though he can lead, I think Russell Rowe could fit better in that position. Maybe it's a Nathan Saliba or an Ishmael Kone where you think, hey, we push those guys further into that role and they can be 10s, but then roam into that space. I think that's the more fascinating conversation with the 9s, because I think if you look at the rest of the pitch, I mean, look out wide. You're good. Not to say that you're perfect. I mean, you could always take a better place, but for the level that they're playing, Nelson is there pushing Schaffelberg, right? Tejan is reminding people he should be there. Liam Miller's coming back from injury at some point, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a group of 5 wingers, right? Your midfield, Mathieu Choignard is a thing. So like
Theo Corbin.
Right? Oh, Theo, listen, I'm on the Theo train, but like
I am as well.
My problem with Theo, it's not my problem. I feel that Theo is a striker, is a winger stuck in a striker's body. I think he profiles better as a winger, but people look at the size. And it's like, look at it's Jebison. It's look at the tools. We could do things with this. And it's like, yeah, but let him develop. And I think Theo's a little bit further on in his development because he's gotten minutes in leagues and played. But I think, again, that's a whole conversation. You look at your fullbacks, I think with Zoran's performance, you look at that and say, okay, we're good. If Sam gets or Richie gets injured, Richie, stay away from things. That's all I'm asking. Stay away from things. You see that potential. And then center backs, honestly, I've said this like at the beginning of the year. I think their World Cup squad is pretty much set, and there's maybe 1 or 2 slots that are open. I think we've seen them for the most part there. So if there are players who start to emerge, we can have a conversation about it for sure. But I think from where they are, they're good. I wanted to ask you this in terms of the flow of this Cote d'Ivoire game, right? Is there anything they can learn? You think Canada can learn from that game? Because I think to me, I'll give you my experience. All my African friends were like, yo, what is this game? And I was like, sir, don't ask me what this game is. This is African qualifiers. So there's it's physical for no reason. And there was a degree in watching this, putting on the Canadian hat. Cote d'Ivoire came out to get under their skin, and they were in it. They were comfortable. They were last year's fashion. They were tomorrow's new fashion. Like they were under their skin that much. There's a degree where I don't know if Canada reacted well, but there's a degree where I don't think, and I said this in my preview, I don't think Cote d'Ivoire was going to walk into that game and be intimidated by Canada's speed. But I think they wanted to definitely send a message, and they certainly did. But when it comes to playing a game like that, is there something you think they could take away from that in terms of preparing for that type of physicality, those type of mental games? Because this was as close to a physical CONCACAF game, except for they weren't just chopping at your shins. They would, they would literally throw you to the ground and then start the counter, and then you didn't have time to complain because Ndingra is trying to run through people. Someone is trying to dummy you, and if people could get a shot on frame, it'd be an interesting conversation. But you think there's something that they could have learned from that game?
I think there's a lot they could have learned from this game. I think there's more from this game they would have learned than the Ukraine game. And I personally would have liked to see our best team in this game against Cote d'Ivoire, because Cote d'Ivoire came out to completely beat Canada. Like, they rested everyone against New Zealand, right? Of
Mhm.
course, Guessant played and a few other players played in that first game, but they were all rested to play Canada. And they came to beat a host nation. They came to make a statement. And at first, Canada were taken a bit back by it. They didn't know what just hit them.
Mhm.
But I think they rode the wave very well. Like, this is a Canadian side that previous iterations would have capitulated. They would have got scored on, heads would have dropped, and it would have been 3-4-0. And
Mhm.
it wasn't at all. I was pleasantly surprised with how well this game went. Yes, we were on the back foot for majority of the game. It's probably crazy to say that I was surprised and pleasantly happy with this,
Mhm.
but we got to remember where we are. This is our B team drawing against Cote d'Ivoire's best side. And also throughout this game, Dane only made one save, and it was from a free kick that I don't know even if it was going to hit the target.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I think they only had one really good chance, which came from a Nicolas Pepe header, which he completely absolutely missed the net by a mile
Yeah.
wide, and he should have been scoring. But besides that, Cote d'Ivoire didn't create really anything. They created half chances, chances
Mhm.
in transition that could have led to something, might have led to something, but didn't. There
Mhm.
was big challenges from Nelson, big challenges from Cornelius, Waterman, Seagor that came up clutch, and they bent, but they didn't fall. I said this in my video. It was great to see how well their mentality was
Mm.
when it wasn't Stefan Eustaquio on the field bringing them up, when it wasn't Alistair Johnson on the field saying, let's keep going. There wasn't any of those big boys you look to for leadership. Yes, Oso was there. Yes, Laren was there, but they both had very poor performances. And the fact that the younger guys, the guys with less experience, were able to pull through against a very physical side in Cote d'Ivoire who wanted to come and beat Canada and really tried to beat Canada.
Mhm.
And at no point I was really worried we were going to lose this game. I don't know how you felt, but I didn't really think we were going to ever lose this game. I thought it was going
Mm.
to be a 0-0 draw right from the get-go. I knew we weren't going to create much. Cote d'Ivoire didn't really look like they're going to create much. We had a
Mhm.
little flick on from Derek Cornelius at the end of the game, which if it hits the target, it's a goal because it's
Mhm.
right in front of the net. But that's an if, but maybe. And I just never thought we were going to lose this game or get scored on with how it went. I don't know how you felt though.
Like I was more so once I saw the game, like the second Frank Kessie throws someone to the ground, you're like, this is home. This is
I've
it
seen
was
this
just like just
before.
the feels of the familiarity. But like I think there's an argument where it's just this is still a young team. This
Mhm.
is still a team that can get and gets frustrated. And you want to see them react well. And like there's the big foul where effectively Jaden Nelson sets a pick for Daniel Jebison and he gets called on it. And that at that moment, just like, and this is an example of like, yeah, this is a thing that's happening, and gotta avoid those moments. And it's good. It's a good reminder for them because at the end of the day, you can only surprise teams for so much. And that's what I was saying. Like when you're looking at this as a tournament, you got your 3 points against Ukraine. Great.
Hmm.
Next game, we've seen the script on you. It was the same thing in 22, right? They played Belgium hit for tat in that game minus the goal. So it's like, okay, Croatia sees this too. Like And yes, we can say, oh, it's the Herdman comments or it's a thing. It doesn't matter. That speed, that pace wasn't going to intimidate them. And so once you realize that, it's like, okay, people have the book on you now. How are they going to react? And Cote d'Ivoire was like, your pace doesn't intimidate us. Also, we can out physical you. So seeing them have to react and work their way through that game, I would have loved to see a bit more composure from them. But at the end of the day, hey, like you said, this wasn't the majority of our starters. This was maybe Dane St. Clair is a starter, Kone is a starter,
Cornelius.
and Laren, you assume, and Cornelius was a starter. You have a spine of players,
You have
right?
4 out of
Ex-
11.
exactly. And so those four are playing, everyone else is kind of trying to work their way through this. And it was like, hey, it's a friendly. Now you know something. You know that some players might run hot quick. You know that some players might not. You know some players will just are in for that. Like this was Richie's game. Like this type of fracas of a game. Oh, it's a Tuesday for Richie. And so you learn these things. But like, yes, I would have loved a bit more composure, but you're gonna get these types of games because the book is out on you, right? We know the world knows, and the more they see us play, they're gonna say, hey, Canada's a transition team. They want to press you. They're going to do that. So you better be crisp with your passes because if not, it's going to be 3-0 quick. And if you're good with your passing, you could be up 1 or 2. You don't know. But I think I love what I saw from them there. Appreciated again. It was a bit of a chippy game. Yes, we knew that, but I think they needed that game, especially going to the Gold Cup where you can get away with teams being surprised by you outside of your region when you're home. Oh, Lane, when you're home, they know you. They've set the tape. They know you. And so we're going to this Gold Cup, and I know Prince Hood jumps in and asks, how far can Canada make it in the Gold Cup? Let's talk about this. We are going straight from the Canadian Shield to the Gold Cup. And we did our reactions to the groups, and it was great. Um, but we're now here. We're on the doorsteps of it. Have your thoughts on what's their ceiling in this tournament? Have they changed? Have they stayed the same? How do you feel about Canada's chances walking into this?
I think our chances for me after the Canadian Shield are even better than they were. I'm more confident now than I was previously.
Hmm.
We just played very well against Ukraine. We came away with a good result against Cote d'Ivoire. And I expect us to make the final no matter what. We have to. That is something that is non-negotiable for me, unless we come up against a very good Mexican side in the semifinals, or something goes fluky and we go south in the semifinals. But I think we really have to go and win this final. This is a Canadian team that's playing with confidence. They're playing their best football. They're passionate. They want to win a trophy. Everyone keeps talking about that. That is what they want to do. And the fact our best players are playing on form, they're positive, they're excited to be at camp, and they're ready to go out there and win this. And it is something that we can see every single day now and on the pitch. But the way they delivered at the Canadian Shield, I thought was impressive on another level. And when we're talking about how you brought up teams aren't going to be surprised about our pace, I almost think Jesse Morris kind of changed his play style against Cote d'Ivoire compared to what he did against Ukraine, which
Mhm.
I thought was something we didn't really see under a Herdman, under a Biello in previous tournaments and previous friendlies, to be able to completely change your style of play and not be all out, let's press, and win the ball. And if Jesse Morris can continue to do that against different nations, it'll be very exciting to see. And I think we're now tactically ready. The players are confident, and I still believe we'll go out and win the Gold Cup, which I don't want to jinx us, but I think it has to happen. I'm going to say that
Mm.
right there. Not going to
I,
jinx it.
I think definitely they have to do well in this tournament. I mean, we've said they need a trophy to legitimize, and it's. I was watching a Herc Gomez clip on YouTube, and it was just the comments, though they're annoying, they're true, right? Canada tends to be they're playing the best. They are in the best form. Like, look at this past window. It's like, oh, look at Canada. Canada beat Ukraine. The U.S. lost to Turkey. Mexico loses to Switzerland, and then Switzerland Swiss cheese the U.S. Mexico beats Turkey, and then we. And there is a point of like, it's not that we're the flavor of the week. I think that's a little bit too passive to say about it. But I think there's a degree where we're the golden child who hasn't done anything. And it's a weird way to put it that way, but there's nothing that shows that they've done anything in the region. And that's why we said Nations League, let's win that. They weren't able to do so. And then they switched over and said, hey, what about the Gold Cup? I think if you look at the form of the teams, right, Castilla is out for Panama, right, which is a big blow for them. So it's Mexico and Canada, right? I still think Panama's going to cause someone a headache because they're always a well-coached group. But it's Canada, it's Mexico, the US. I don't know what to make of them right now. Like, this could be another Copa America for them where they get grouped, and people said I was crazy for saying they would get grouped or finish in second. I don't think I don't think the US is making the semis because I feel like they're going to finish second in their group. They're going to play Mexico in the semi in the quarters. But for Canada, they need to make the finals here, right? Prince says like if they don't make the semis, it's a fail. I disagree. I think they need to make the finals. They legitimately need to make the finals because they've missed out on, if you want to count the Canadian Shield, even though they won it, but they've missed out on, I think, two great moments to make a statement in the region this year. Nations League, they weren't able to do so. And then the Canadian Shield, a win versus Cote d'Ivoire would have gone away. They weren't able to do that. And that's okay. Cote d'Ivoire was up for that. They circled that game. And so for them, I know you said minimum semifinals, Prince said, but I'm saying for them, it has to be finals.
Final. Yeah.
They need to be playing in the finals, right? And so for me, that's kind of how I see it. And you think they can win it? I don't think that they can't win it, but Mexico is the new boogeyman for them, right? For whatever reason, whenever they face them in big moments, they just haven't been able to get it done. And so I want to see them beat Mexico in the final in a hostile environment. They have to get there first. Let's not forget that. And there are teams that are coming that you have to be aware from them as well. So I think making the finals, let's get there and then let's reevaluate. But I think they certainly do need to have that type of a performance because if not, after that, we just have friendlies. And so I think this group, I think they'll eventually win something. I don't think they don't win something, but I think they need to have something to go with them to show they need something to validate how well they've been playing. And unfortunately, as much as I wish it would, the Canadian Shield doesn't count for that. Right? No one's going to say, well, they won a Canadian Shield, so they've done well. They need something in the region to kind of showcase what they've done. And I think that's where it is. And yeah, I do agree with you, Prince. I think Mexico is the team to beat right now. And I think Mexico looks at, I always go back to that game where it's, if they don't score off that bounce, I think it's definitely a different game in the semifinals. But once Mexico could sit back and defend, I mean, it's a 5 in the back with a 6. So they got the best that they could have asked for. But I'm curious to see what that would have looked like. So for you, we go back to the groups, right? Which I had here, the schedule. Let's bust out the schedule here. Starts off on Saturday. You have Mexico versus Dom Rep on Saturday.
Not an easy game.
No, it's not. The USA versus Trinidad and Tobago game. Call me crazy.
Trinidad wins.
I can see them winning. This team, like this US side, just seems very much unreliable.
They look deflated. Yeah.
Yes.
And it doesn't help with their media. I know we're not a US prominent channel, but it doesn't help with the way their ex-players are pounding on so much pressure onto this team now, right? Like I appreciate them saying like their previous iterations would have so much passion. They'd always show up. They're never tired. They'll always be there. But you can't keep saying this every single window. And the more you big up the players that aren't there, how does it make the players that are actually called up to this squad feel? Like there's some reason the players on this squad are probably feeling like, well, are we not valued? Are we not up to the standard? Or are you guys just gonna keep thinking about what players are left behind? That'd be like,
It's
for instance, if
yeah.
Dwayne De Rosario said Canada's not going to be good enough because Alfonso and Alistair aren't there. Something to that standard, right? And then it would
Mm.
make the players who are on the team probably feel like shit a bit, right? Or that's how I would feel like it is at some circumstance.
I get that point, and that's fair. I had like 8 points, and they've all ADHD'd.
Oh,
Um,
there's lots, right? It's football.
there are with them. It's like I don't know if I even feel sympathy, but it's more so of a
I'd never feel sympathy for them.
again, maybe it's because it's I just that's what I have to consume all the time. So when I see it not working, I'm like, this is a lovely 25. Yes, wonderful. No, I think with them, I don't know if they ever like they need a specific voice for them. If you want to be like the most optimistic for them, they need a specific voice and they need to be healthy. That's the most
Greg Berhalter.
optimistic take I can take, right? Berhalter's not the voice for them. But like, and I keep on like I keep on saying that point. Like, I think it's poignant that the best we've seen them look is when they had the assistant to the assistant coach leading that side. Like, and that to me is mental. To me, it's like not the coach, not the assistant coach. This is office level shenanigans. The assistant to the assistant manager got the best out of this side, right? Because there's a degree where at their core they are a transition team, right? Like at the and this is the thing, it's the same conversation with Canada, it's the same conversation I have with like some of the Caribbean countries. At their core they are a transition side, but there's always like this internal fight of like, but we can be technical, we can try to be these things. No, but at your core you are the best at your best when you're transitioning quickly, running the channels, scoring there, and then saying, okay, let's do that. And so for the US, it's that struggle, I think, of what do we want to be. And with Berhalter, that's what the problem was. It was just like, we're going to pass the ball in. We're going to build up from the back. We're going to go full back, midfield. We're going to have midfield as center backs. We're going to have go out wide. We're going to go to the wingers, fullbacks, overlapping runs. We're going to get the ball there. Then we're going to cross and hope Pepe gets it. And like in that type of a system, like Balogun is just like, look, this is cool, but where does Balogun look great? When you turn them over at the midpoint, at the midline, and then you have a Gio Reyna. I know Gio Reyna is almost like the poster child for this entire generation. And then you transition to him, you get the ball to Flo. Flo puts it in, he's running. That's when he looks the best. I don't know if it's almost as if the federation wants to be one thing, the alumni want them to be one thing, those players are trying to be one thing. It's just it's conflating of styles. And what does it equal? It equals first minute goal, and then you'll concede 6 more later. So I mean, you can get excited, but that first goal won't mean anything. And so do I have sympathy for them? I mean, they're a rival. I don't. I enjoy some tears taste well. Um, and so for me, I don't feel bad for them, but it just whenever I watch them, they just seem like they're trying to do 8 different things when it's like, but you could just be you. Just be you. Just go out there and be you. Be a transition team. That's what works well. And if you're gonna be that type of a team, a passing or a solid build up team, that takes a generation. That's not gonna happen in a cycle. But enough American talk. Um, that ooh, I haven't even thought of thoughts of Greenland being denied to join CONCACAF. Very simply, how dare they?
Yeah,
How dare they?
it'd been a great away trip.
I want Green. You know what Greenland would have meant? Greenland could have afforded us the opportunity to say, you know what? Let's do something great for travel for them. Let's put Greenland in Halifax and play a World Cup. Why not? It's a
Yeah.
short trip for them. Like we
I
missed
would
out
love
on
an
the
away day
opportunity.
in Greenland.
When when is it appropriate football weather there? I'll hang up and listen. But like it's that's the thing. Like it'll be very interesting. But USA aside, back to the important things. Back to the things. Um, Haiti versus Saudi Arabia will be fun. Costa Rica versus Suriname, interesting. Panama versus Guadeloupe. Panama don't do the thing. Um, Jamaica versus Guatemala, second matchup in as many days for them because they just play now. Guatemala did rotate a lot, so it'll be a different lineup that they'll play. Uh, Curacao versus El Salvador, I think that'll be tasty. That'll be a good matchup. And then Canada versus Honduras. I think this is a game for Canada where it's literally
Make a statement.
don't play with your food,
Yeah.
please. Right? I feel like I've been making food analogies today, but eat your dinner and go to bed. Okay?
Make me hungry.
Eh, don't mess with your food. That's all that I would say because at this point, again, they're expected to do well, and that's what you want them to do. Second match days, you have Costa Rica Dom Rep, Suriname, Mexico as the reason why I went live. We want to play Suriname. The disrespect. Haiti TNT will be fun on Thursday. That'll be a fun game.
Very fun.
This Saudi versus USA matchup. On paper, the US should win this. I'm telling you, if the I don't again, nothing that they have shown has given me confidence to say I think they should do well. Um, Jamaica, Guadeloupe, I think that's a up and down game, but Jamaica should win that. Guatemala, Panama. I think the vibes in that stadium will be fun. And then Curacao, Canada, and then El Salvador, Honduras. We're okay on this thing. Can I just get onto this soapbox? What is the point of CONCACAF being like, oh, Vancouver gets to host games at the Gold Cup? Oh, great. How many games are we hosting? You get the opening one. Okay, and then what is the don't stop it, okay? Just stop it. They have hosted entire groups in other countries. Jamaica's hosted one. I think Honduras did one. And then when it comes to Canada, they're like, yo, you can have your first match. Everything else in America. And I'm just like, what then? Then don't tell me that we're a host city. We're not. We're not. We're friends. We're passing through. We're the value meal. Like, don't do this. It frustrates me because I was like, oh, I could take a trip out there. Oh, this is great. And then I realized they're only playing one game. Well, look, if I say they hosted with awful pitches, then see now they'll come for me. But they always come for me. This is true. They did. I remember that year. I do remember that year. Huh. But when you look at the groups, do you feel that they have any other shape? Do you feel differently about how you predicted them a month ago? Or do you think that they are going to kind of go for chalk as they are?
I still believe we have the easiest group out of the big nations at the Gold Cup. Like Mexico don't have an easy group by any means. TNT, Dom Rep, it's a tough group. It really is. And Costa Rica, like that is a very fun group to watch. Panama and Jamaica, you got two big nations right there. And Guatemala are no pushover either.
No, they are not.
Not at all, which I'm sure casual would think they are, but they definitely aren't. And Group D of USA might be the group of death. It's a very difficult group as well. Yes, you could say US are a strong outlier in that group, but all four of those teams You don't know who could end up last. You don't know who could end up first, in my opinion. I don't know about you,
I
but
would argue Group D is the group of life. I think any one of those 4 teams can come out.
yeah, I completely agree. And then when you look at our group,
Mhm.
I think we're the only big nation in that group. Honduras hasn't been playing great football. El
Awesome.
Salvador
Same.
and Curacao, I think, could surprise everyone. They really could.
I think Curacao, based off how they're playing, Curacao or Honduras takes the group. El Salvador have been
Very poor.
decent,
Yeah,
but
decent.
but they weren't the level that they were with Hugo before,
Yeah,
right?
that's more so what I'm getting at. Yeah,
And
they're a shadow of their former self is a better way to phrase it.
yeah, and I mean that's a disappointment because I think with Perez, they were a team that was always like, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but like they were like a, I won't say it because I'm not going to call anyone a poor man's version of something. But they were like Panama, where they were always tactically set for every matchup, right? And I think that's where I was excited with them. But then without Perez, they got some action with it, but it's not been as good as before. So I'm very much curious to see how they look. They'll be up for the Honduras El Salvador derby there. They're always up for that game. But I'm more so curious to see, like, again, Curacao. I think this is a I think I can see Curacao get out of the group. And if they do that, then they are a very fascinating team, depending on what their matchup is and what happens with the other groups. We're here for a minute. Let's go through these comments. I haven't said hi to
Yeah.
everyone. I know Prince, you've been here. Steph, good to see you as well. And Sun, good to see you. All right. Davis is good, but can Kanaka say they are the best in CONCACAF and not prove it? Agreed. They need a trophy. They do need a trophy. They need a trophy indeed. Yes, the Kings of CONCACAF statements. I loved it so much. Every time I went somewhere on YouTube, oh, you and your Kings of, like, I didn't say this. Okay. I never made claims to this. I am okay with this, but it is not what I would want right now. USMNT are probably the most apathetic host nation I've seen. Even Qatar, although it didn't help, was playing in Europe, and CONCACAF just gives themselves a chance. True, correct, but awful. That's an interesting take. We're too loyal to some players. They change over the teams on a cycle basis as opposed to match by match. We're too loyal to players. I mean, I said this earlier today, but no.
I don't think so.
I mean, if you want to look and say the 2022 World Cup, they was loyal. Yes, it was a lifetime achievement award. It was that one was they were rewarding the players of the program who've been loyal. It was known. Did we all agree with it? Of course not. But did it happen? Of course it did. And so for me, I don't think we're too loyal right now. But then every coach, but that's every coach. Every coach has his players. Right? Every coach has a core players that they like, and then they become the players of that until you don't need them anymore. Sholajimo is nowhere near the Gold Cup roster. He's on the prelim list, but I think that's as close as he'll get.
Yeah.
So
he's probably like 8, 9 on the wingers depth chart.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think of. But we also have to remember he's like 16, right? He's 17 or he's a very young teenager. Let's let these guys play in the youth national teams. Let them develop. Don't rush their progress. And then we bring them through when there's ready. If there's an injury, what have you, then push them through.
Exactly. And yeah, because even if a winger gets hurt, who's the next winger that they call? I feel like
you go.
It's gotta be Theo, right?
If healthy, I'd say Liam Miller.
I mean, but right now, I'm saying
right now,
Cup. Yeah.
Theo. Yeah, it'd have to be Theo. Thinking off the top of my head.
Because he'd be your perfect out wide, but then also could play up top if you need him to. So that would be arguably the call to make. Yeah. CONCACAF's Can's preparation year, a year out, is shambles.
You could also say Junior Hoylett's still on that list.
Junior would be. I mean, I wanted Junior to be the vet on this team, but
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could say it's loyalty to keep calling him back, but I don't. I think his quality is still good enough.
yeah, like Junior can give you a tight 15 or
Yeah,
like a solid 25.
when you need
And
that
there's
experience, that composure,
Mhm,
like you said, against like a Cote d'Ivoire, you bring on a Junior Hoylett to slow it down, bring
mhm.
that calm head in the field, and he just does that, does his thing.
Agreed. El Salvador and Honduras can score. They're the ultimate feast or famine. I disagree with they're the ultimate feast or famine. The ultimate feast or famine is Haiti. Haiti is the ultimate feast or famine. They're either scoring six or you're asking what time is it till it'll be six. They are a team that's going to score 6 goals. And then look at their World Cup qualifiers. They got fived by Curacao, and they arguably had a good game. Like Curacao just was more clinical in their chances. They need the Gold Cup. I do agree, Son. True. If you are the best, you have to beat the best. Been saying that. Steph saying Osorio and Lauren shouldn't have been placed on this team anymore, unfortunately, or shouldn't have a place on this team. I would argue if one of the two is going to be, it's probably going to be Laren. And if you ask me if I had to choose between one, I would take Laren, just because I think in the midfield there's more options, right? Saliba, Schwanyel, Kone, Stakio. One day they'll play Seeger there. One
Yep,
day they'll play Seeger there, and I'll be happy.
a long
Uh,
list.
yes, Crepo lost his starting job to Pantomis and never got called in. And James, well,
Crepo worked his way back in too, right? Like he's starting for
that's what I was
Puerto
going to
Rico.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. New Zealand should have been the Gold Cup instead of Saudi Arabia. I could pick like 5 different countries I wish were in what he said, but in louder words. The
Anytime.
investment opportunity just couldn't be turned away, you know?
Investment's a great word to use for it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the
nice.
investment.
It's a nicer way than I would have put it.
The yes, Saudi Air, right? Saudi Air is I think it's what it was called.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Senior Hoylet offers a good 10 roll. Again, Kone, Saliba. I think they are good in the midfield in terms of depth. So like I don't worry about them too much in that sense. Uh, we're really doing well on this 90 minutes flats and maybe extra time. I feel
Yeah,
great about myself. This is great. This
it was a
is
great guess.
lovely. Good game.
Spot on.
Mhm. Now the chat's just tired. Yeah, y'all need caffeine. You just bringing Colombia just for the baddies, sir. I'm gonna simply say, was Colombia not in the final of the Copa America? That's all I'm going to say. Just look
But
up the
how
video.
hectic was it getting into that final?
Yeah, getting into that final or getting to that final, both
Bit of
were
both. Yeah,
a
maybe it's
bit of
easier
both.
getting into the final than getting to the final.
I don't know. Based off some video, it was an experience unlike any other. It was an experience.
The
But like,
joys of American football.
the joys of it all. But right now, are you picking Canada to win the Gold Cup?
Oh God, you're gonna make me do that, eh?
Why not?
Yeah,
It's my channel. I can do it. I'll tag you in
of
it.
course you will. Yeah, and you'll make me remember this when we eventually somehow blow it in the final or something, and I'll
Oh no, I will sit there and be like, I wish you were right. I really do. I genuinely wish you were.
I'm gonna say we win it because I think we have to win it.
Mhm,
And I know we said this about the Nations League with how damaged and hurt other nations were going into it, with players going into it, players not
mhm,
being there. But this is just a better run in for Canada. We have a
mhm,
group where we're not jumping in immediately. We're not playing Mexico right off the get go, and we have to beat Mexico. And if a bounce
mhm,
goes the wrong way, we're out. That's just not going to happen this tournament, right? We got 3 games against El Salvador, Honduras, and Curacao, which we can play great football, warm into the tournament, get right into the knockouts, And I think it's a really great setup for Canada to go on and have a good chance to win this tournament. We're not playing a big team in the group. We're able to test ourselves, get our confidence running, and then hit a bigger nation in the knockouts. And who knows? This is tournament format, right?
Yeah.
Anything could happen. Mexico could randomly get knocked out by whoever they play in the first round of knockouts. I don't know. This is a football, right? We saw was it Portugal go out very early in the World Cup? We saw other nations get eliminated.
That's
very early.
tradition.
Yeah, exactly. It's tradition. It's football heritage, right?
Mhm.
And anything can happen in football. It's a tournament format,
Mhm.
and we don't know what will happen, which is the greatest thing about football. And USA could get knocked out in the group stage. Canada could come second for all we know. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think Canada's going to win this tournament. And it wouldn't surprise me if we somehow met a Panama in the final or we met someone rogue in the final. I don't think US is going to get close to this final. And I think Mexico will meet Canada in the I don't know if it works out that way. Canada meets US in the semis. I can't remember. But if you remember the knockout format, it's so hard to keep up with when we have so much tournaments going on.
So,
But
because I remember thinking about this. The Gold Cup, I don't think the US makes it far because I think they finished in second, and they would play
Mexico?
the Mexico's group
Okay,
first.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
And so that's why I don't think because I didn't think they were good. I didn't think they were performing well beforehand. And so now looking at where they would be, that's where it kind of because it's let me all
But
the
even if
buttons.
Mexico has to face a Panama or Jamaica
Mhm,
or someone from that US group who's higher up, you never know
mhm.
what can happen, right?
Yeah, because it's one A and then 2D and then 1B and then 2C. So Canada would be playing if they win their group, they'd be playing the second place of Group C, I believe.
Guatemala.
And so if that's the format, and if I'm wrong, we'll correct it. We have time. Um, like Canada is either going to play Panama or Jamaica, and it's a weird relationship Jamaica and Panama have with themselves because
You're ruling out
Panama.
Guatemala, eh?
Listen, I would love for it to be Guatemala, but that means I'm drinking the tears of someone, and so we'll see where it goes. And then the winner of Group C would play the winner of that. So, and that's why I think the U.S. goes down because I think they finished in second in their group, and then they play Mexico, and Mexico, you know, takes out like a lot of. So Saudi, do I think Saudi is gonna top Group D?
I want to hear what you got to say about this.
Prince, call Dwight York, tell Levi to come correct, because I want to choose some Soca Warriors, but I think. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Yeah, Trinidad. You guys have shown enough. You have been the U.S. I mean, it took Serginho Dest's questionable choice, but you have done it, and you defended them well. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, you guys top this group. I think Trinity tops the group. Saudi, as much as I think, and the problem with Saudi Arabia is, and I said this a month ago, that coach, if there's a man who will pull out a deep run out of nothing. His name is Hervé Renard, and he's done it twice in Africa, and to the expense of my Ghanaians. So he's done it. He will do it. Could I see America getting grouped? Yes. Did I think? Did I hope it could happen a month ago? Yes. Can I see it happening now? Yes. We'll see. They won't play a team as difficult as Switzerland and Turkey in the Gold Cup that's not named Panama, Canada, or Mexico. But Saudi Arabia could do it. So I am very curious to see what happens. But could the US get grouped? I think it's a lot more likely now than it was a month ago. And yeah, you can still see the US topping the group. That's true. But they have to do it. And their form hasn't suggested that they will do it, so we'll see what it is. You don't think your defense is good? Well, then outscore everyone. Do what Qatar did. Just score 5 and hope the other team only scores 3. It's the good way to do it. Ah, Kevin, good to see you, man. Could you imagine Greenwood, Rowe, Smith Rowe, Rico Henry, Archer, Max Aarons joining them for the next window? Like, I've been doing nothing but imagining it because I've not seen it. So it's if they do it, they do it. But at some point, you just gotta at some point just win the games. Don't barely beat the British Virgin Islands. Just beat the British Virgin Islands and Dominica. And then you can worry about, how many Smith Rowes or Woods or Aarons will be coming. Because at that point, then it's a real conversation. Beat the teams in front of you before you field the team that you don't have. Right. But yeah, I can see they do. There's yes, Guatemala fans certainly do go. So I wonder how, the state of the states. I wonder what that does for Gold Cup attendance, to be perfectly honest. It is interesting. Maybe it affects it a little bit, maybe affects it a lot. We'll wait and see. But it certainly can't not be a thing. And so I am curious to see how that kind of all looks as we go. But yes, there's always great participation. There's great representation in the crowds. I think that's what makes it great. Yes, he was at the game. Kwesi Poku was at the game on Saturday, so starting to get back into rehab into preseason. But yeah, he's not ready yet. I think Poku, small take. I think he's like your perfect Richie Larea replacement in the future as a player who, what is he? He can be a winger. He can be a fullback. He can be a 9. Don't ask him to be a center back. Just play him on wings or at the top. But yeah, I think that could be interesting from there. Let's just call these groups. Group A, Mexico and Costa Rica. Are those your calls?
Yeah, those are my calls. I'd like to be rogue, but I can't.
Yeah, it's all good. Suriname, I think, is Bruno Caboclo, 5 years away from being 5 years away. Or is it 2 years from being 2? Who knows? Group B, I think Canada gets it done. I'll go with Curacao right now, but Honduras, they got them vets. Romel Kyoto is still scoring and still making decent runs for them. So I can see Honduras coming, but I'm going to go Curacao. Who are you going for Group B?
I'm copying you again. That Curacao team looks very underrated on paper, and I think they'll surprise a few teams or a few supporters as well in this tournament.
In the Group C, Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, Guadeloupe. I think this might be as close to a group of death as we have, even though some may say Group D. I think based off how the U.S. is playing, Group D is a group of life. But for Group C, Panama will always have my respect. Christensen, to me, is pound for pound the best coach in the region. Can't take that away from him. Which Jamaica team do you get? Do you get the BVI Jamaica team or do you get the Guatemala Jamaica team? If you tell me which one it is, I can tell you where they finish. But I think Panama goes through at the top. The cop-out answer is, let me see how they look against Guatemala in their first game. Because if they look good against Guatemala, I think they can top this group. But if Guatemala gets them to a draw or even beats them, then Canada's probably playing them in the quarterfinals. And that's an interesting matchup. It's not your mom's Jamaica, nor is it your mom's Canada. Who do you got for Group C?
Did you say Jamaica's going through? I'm gonna push you on that one.
Yes, I did. I said Jamaica will go through.
The uncertainty on your face, just
pure full of confidence. Look, on paper, there's no reason they shouldn't. The problem with them is they play to their competition too much. Like and it feels when they can't finish, they just leave yourself vulnerable to that. I think they should come out, but again, let me see that Guatemala Jamaica matchup, and then after that, it'll be a okay. They're either going through or it's so. You remember how y'all were feeling great about your World Cup groups? Let's talk about that again. So I'm gonna go right now. Panama, Jamaica, make it through. But let me see that Guatemala Jamaica matchup first. What about you?
Good, because I'm going different. I'm going Panama, Guatemala.
No
Someone
faith.
had to go this way. Someone had to go this way.
No
Uh,
faith. I
I think,
appreciate you.
yeah, so I had to give you some good content here, right?
Mhm.
I think, like you say, it comes right down to that first game, which I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up a draw, right? Jamaica play to their opponent. They come out of the block slow. They they don't live up to that first game, and then Panama beats both of them, and it becomes a shootout to see who can beat Guadeloupe
Mhm.
more. And it'll be very interesting, I think, if it goes draw, loss to Panama, and then who can score more against Guadeloupe. And I'm not saying Guadeloupe's going to be an absolute pushover either, because they've been known to stunt some sides and known to pull out some close games, some shock results. But I think it might come down to that game for each side. So I'm going to say Guatemala because there's going to be probably two spots within this tournament that are going to be real shocks because that's how tournament football goes. There's always a major upset in a group. So I'm going to say Guatemala over Jamaica.
That's fine, guys. If you're looking for him on the rise, on the rise. Okay, I'll tag it there on the rise.
It's
All
going to be
right.
worth a sub, right?
Yeah, you get a good sub out of it. 1, 2, 3. And then Group D: U.S., Haiti, Trinidad, and Saudi Arabia. Pick any two, and I'll be fine. Haiti can string together. See, like it would be Haiti for them to put 3 good games together in this and top this group, and then bottle it immediately. Like Haiti's just that inconsistent. Haiti is the ultimate feast or famine. It's they're scoring 6, or they're having yeah. Hades actually do a good run. So yeah, Haiti in the seconds. Let's get nuts. Haiti in second, and
That's
then
a trend here.
let's get nuts. And then who do I want first? What madness am I about to choose? Um, the Saudis and the Haitians. Let's just get nuts. Let's get nuts. No, I think any one of these teams can win their
Mhm.
games, and how it does come down to, in all seriousness, what U.S. team shows up. Because this group is as open or as shut as that team plays. If they look like they've looked. Now, again, no team here is Turkey. No team here is Switzerland. But if they look unconvincing, all 3 teams are thinking they can do well. And so for me, it's this team comes down from the US, but I don't see them. I can't trust them right now. So the next logic for me is Trinidad and this Saudi team could be anything. And so could the Saudi team win? Yes. Could the Saudi team also look a little bit soft? Possibly. So I'm gonna say because by the spirit of Uncle Sam, uh, it's gonna be. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go for it. Trinidad and then U.S.
So you changed your mind on Haiti, eh?
Listen, I'm still bitter about that 3-2 loss. I'm still bitter.
I don't blame you. And the whole time you're talking, I was thinking in my head, how am I going to order this? And I still don't know. It's completely the group of death, the group of life. Totally agree with you. I don't think we're going to see the USA that US supporters want to see in this tournament.
Mhm.
At the same time, Saudi Arabia has not been great of recent in the Asian qualifiers, which is
Mhm.
another thing that scares me. But they still have quality, and like you say, it's a tournament, and if there's ever a manager that's gonna pull it off, it's Hervé Renard. And then you have Haiti, who can pull off 3 wins on who knows when day and shock us all, and then fall apart in the next round. And then you have TNT, which if Levi Garcia can pull up a worldie of a tournament, they can be first in this group either. So it's an absolute headache to predict this group. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna say USA comes third. TNT comes fourth.
Well, yeah. You're losing Caribbean subscribers by the minute.
And and Haiti comes first, with Saudi coming second.
Uh, Fair. This is also my reminder to remind everyone: just because Qatar looked terrible at the World Cup doesn't mean that Asia sucks.
Yeah,
It just means
exactly.
that Qatar looked terrible at the World Cup. Asia is still the best. I think CONCACAF out of all the federations is probably the second worst outside of,
Oceania.
Solomon Islands and friends. Um, da, 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 da. And now, yeah,
Yeah, I know.
see, look what you're doing. Just creating strife in the comments. Just why?
I mean, I
Why
was
would
gonna
you?
put USA fourth, but it's difficult to choose this group,
If
man.
they did, again, they'd give me content for weeks, and I'd appreciate them.
Weeks, months.
A year. He's like, yeah, you're gonna win the World Cup. You got grouped at the Gold Cup. Hmm. That karma will come back to me at some point, I'm sure. Okay. Let's
So
say,
Saudi's been such a wild card.
yeah. Tell me when Jamaica have never made the semifinals or the finals of the Gold Cup or the Nations League. You just made the semifinals of the Nations League. You just made the semifinals of the Gold Cup. Yeah, you just did. But I liked your coach then. I still need to be sold on McLaren. I do. I feel like McLaren never sets up his team well, and that is something that's a little bit shifty on it for me. So we'll see how that goes. But McLaren as a coach, I don't trust him with Jamaica. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of them, but we'll see. And we'll go. This is CONCACAF, not the AFC. Saudi is my dark horse. That's fair. Also, we cannot let Saudi win this tournament because if an Asian team walks into our, we have issues. We can't let this happen. We must protect our investments. We certainly must. Dead ball predicted. TNT last. USA first. Saudi second. Haiti third. I can understand that. Um, I think Trinidad is like the perfect counter team. And so give the ball to the US, turn them over and score. Levi, score a couple screamers, and you're looking great. Jamaica's best players either come 3 years too late or are bad after one season, never in form. Leave Damari Gray alone, Steph. Leave Damari Gray alone. Yep. Don't see us being the US. I think you can. This version of them. This version of them aren't maybe I don't think they're gonna be as fluid. This version of them will look more like a countering team. Nothing about them is convincing to me right now. So we'll have to wait and see. We are 85th minute. Looking good.
It's
We're
looking
looking
great.
good. So those are it, guys. If you haven't already, if you're rewatching this, give us your predictions in the comments. And we'll go from there. Last but not least, let's get into this. Let's just get into them. This World Cup CONCACAF qualifying groups. The groups are there. You haven't seen them all, but Group A is Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, Suriname. Group B is Jamaica, Curacao, Trinidad and Tobago, and Bermuda. And Group C is Costa Rica, Honduras, Haiti, and Nicaragua. Look, CONCACAF decided to reseed after the groups, which I think was the wrong choice. Reward winning. Don't, yeah, I'm someone who's a proponent of reward winning. So when they do stuff like this and they're like, yeah, let's just Research. No, look at your groups. Take the goal difference and decide who's going to be in the first spot and who's not going to be in the first spot. And if you weren't convincing, that's on you. You knew the rules, but now they reseed everything. So Panama and Costa Rica were still fine, but it's like really the team that benefits from this most is Jamaica because they top their group and because they're the highest ranked team, they go straight to the top and they get to avoid the Panamas and the Costa Ricas of the world. But these are the three groups. Lane, what do you think of them? Who do you think comes out and represents the CONCACAF along with the host nations?
I think the most exciting group by far has to be Group A. Look, this is my first time seeing the groups, which is very exciting.
Okay.
But I think the Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, Suriname group is very exciting. I think Panama, of course, is the best team in this group, the best coached in this group. Tactically, they're the best set up.
Mhm.
But I think they can be stunted by Guatemala, by Suriname if they show up on their day. El Salvador can be crazy CONCACAF football, and we don't know what can happen. That's a great group to see. But I think Panama is just the best team out of everyone in this format and will qualify out of their group. And in Group B, it's not an easy group at all for Jamaica. And Curacao, Trinidad, and Bermuda, of course, are the side that is just happy to be here. They're excited. They're living on adrenaline on being in this group right now in Group B. Bermuda, I don't see them getting out of fourth, but I think they're going to have an upset in a game that could change the tide of this group. I do see the two teams who are in Group B at the top 1 and 2 right now finishing where they are. Like I see Jamaica winning this, even though they're going to play down to their opponents. Hopefully, Steve McLaren can get the job done. Hopefully, he can play better football, set them up better, and beat TNT and Curacao. But they're not easy games. Those are very difficult games, especially if Curacao has a very good Gold Cup or at least comes second. They're going to be on a high. They're going to be playing good football and having a chance with their confidence to maybe go and upset Jamaica. And I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying it's going to be a very interesting group there in Group B. I'm going to say Jamaica, Curacao. And Group C, it's anyone's ball game between Haiti, Honduras, Costa Rica. I know Costa Rica they're not an exciting team to watch, but they're going to get the job done one way or another in matches. And I don't know if they qualify. There's going to be an upset. There is going to be an upset at the top. There's no way that the three big dogs immediately qualify. I just don't think that happens. And I think Haiti come top of Group C, which I'd absolutely love to see them qualify for the World Cup. Having Haiti at the World Cup would be amazing for so many different reasons. So I'm going to say Haiti qualify in first and Costa Rica in second in Group C.
Sir.
Yeah.
Ugalde is out here, he's out here. Mitchell is out here.
I'm on the Haiti train today.
You're on the Haiti train? Okay.
Yeah.
So you think that this is the time we'll put it all together.
Fingers crossed.
That is interesting. That is interesting. But that's okay. If this version can't win this edition of the Caribbean Cup, if they can't, in the words of many who've come before me, end the stream. Just end the stream if you can't do it here. But no, I think it's fascinating. I think every group has its conversations. I think if you're the top teams, bank your points, right? Because the margins are so small. You need to get your points in. I mean, if you look at Canada's run, right? They didn't lose a game. It was just draw, win, draw, win, loss, win, loss, win. Sorry, loss. So I think they need to just bank their points, and who they start up against will be important. But you only have 6 games. Like the one thing with the Ocho was you had 14 games. But with 6 games, yes, the difference between 6, 3, and 0 are different, but you don't have time to breathe. A draw isn't a bad result, right? Like, A prime example, just because you're good on paper doesn't mean you're going to be good. Nigeria right now, they need perfect windows to have a chance to make this World Cup because their first half of qualifying were just draws, draws, loss, draws, draws. And the other teams in their group got wins. And so now they need perfect windows to have a chance. And they have time. So when it comes to CONCACAF teams, you have 6 games. Don't mess around with it. Don't look at a team and say, oh, they're the last ranked team. We can rotate. No, rotate when the first game of your window ends 7-0. Then you can think about rotate. Don't play with your food. That's how you choke. So, no, it's facts. I know there's a thing where it says I don't, it's just facts. Right? Ask any Nigerian. They'll say they played with their food too much. They didn't score. And now they're going to miss another World Cup. And so, not a dig at Nigeria. Nigerians won't disagree with me. Just because I'm Ghanaian saying it doesn't mean that it's a dig. The truth hurts. It's okay. But no, I think for CONCACAF teams, that's what I would say. Bank your points so that you don't need to worry about it later. Because if not, then you're in a situation that you're fighting and you don't have as much room. I think 12 points for each team probably gets it done. Right? If you win at home and you draw on the road, 12 points I think should be the number you're chasing. And so for teams, you get to 12, you're good. Once you lose some of those matchups, then it becomes a lower number, but that's a lower number is more attainable. So that will be the interesting thing. We are at 90 minutes. The ref has put up the 3 minutes of additional time sign. Where do we want to end off here? Let me ask you this. Gold Cup. Back to the Gold Cup for Canada. Which player do you think every Gold Cup for Canada, there's been a player, right? We were introduced to Tejan in 2021. Schaffelberg, had his run. Which Canadian player do you think we get introduced to here at the Gold Cup? Who breaks out?
I think we already saw a glimpse of it against Ukraine. I'd say it's Luc de Fougerolles. He has a huge role to step into to cover for Moise Bombito. Everyone's worried that back line's not going to have chemistry. They're not going to gel. And he stepped into it seamlessly against Ukraine. Like you said, he knew the right physicality. He knew how to judge both games in the Canadian Shield. And he's ready for the step up. And the fact that 19 years old, he was out injured most of this past season for Fulham's Academy. And he comes back into senior life and senior football with Canada and plays Ukraine and Cote d'Ivoire and doesn't look out of position. It looks better than we could have ever expected. I think we're going to be introduced to LDF on a higher level and better than we expected. And we could say Promise David. We could say Nothing Saliba. We could say those players, but I really think LDF at 19 is going to have a really breakout tournament.
I would say, Promise David's the easy pull. I think him with Joe David, perfect 9 for that. So he'd be my first one I'd look out for. Nico Seeger. I think I
could have put a bet on that one.
One day they'll play him in the middle, and then we'll be happy for it. But I think Promise has the most to gain out of this, because if you just swap him with Kyle, I think you get a younger, faster pressing, maybe a more clinical player. He's been on fire for club. And so why not just say, hey, I'm not going to douse that. Let you run and go through that. I think Jebison scores a goal here in this tournament. I just think he does. Like, I know his experience was a roller coaster for some fans. I get it. He's raw, but when he's a player that I look at and I'm like, if everything he is simple, if it's direct, you see the flashes, right? All the goals that he scored in the Prem have been direct attacking goals, run the channel, get to a spot. The more where he has to try to be, and this is where like he's not the best hold up. He has the frame of a hold up, but he's really more of a turn the ball over, boy, book it, go, run the channels and go. And I think they're going to score goals like that. I think he's going to get one like that. So I think right now Promise is more complete, but I think in terms of how Marsh wants to play, I think Jefferson's going to score a goal in this tournament. And for those of you wondering if this is a dig at someone, this is a specific dig at someone. You figure it out. I'm going to run onto the pitch, kick the ball from 45 yards out. I'm sorry, that's a lie. It was 32 yards out. It'll deflect on someone, and then you'll be called the star boy of the nation. If you know who I'm talking about, you're welcome. So I'll whisper it to you. I think he'll score a goal in that frame. So I think I'm very much excited to see him do that. But yeah, Seager, Promise. I mean, if Saliba will do well. Also, this is a good audition for Zoran, right? He gets to come in and be that fullback. And if he continues to put this up, I think my fears for fullback for Canada, see it, Prince. I think my fears for Canada at the fullback position get answered and we're good. So if we do that, I think that's what I'm looking forward to. But with that being the case, the ref has looked at his watch. He's called full time, guys. We're not trying to go more than 90 minutes, but 7 minutes of additional time. What is this, a World Cup match? If it was World Cup, I'd get 15 and I'd be happy. But guys, thank you for being here. If you're here on the rewatch, let us know who you're looking forward to, whether that's at the Gold Cup for some World Cup qualifiers, and who stood out to you for the Canadian Shield. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to On the Rise here on YouTube. Find the logo, put it in. Great Canadian content to follow. We'll tag him on this, so you'll be able to do so as well. Get him to 1,000 and get me to 2,000. Not because I'm technically closer to that.
Get it going.
Yeah, let's get going. Let's do this thing. We're trying to get to 2025 by the end of 2025, so let's do that. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right